so that's why we thought it was so important to look at that sector in particular for this labor breakfast. Because we really feel like you've been, in a sense, overlooked. Yes, we talked about and talked at a lot over these last 18 months. But it was time to honor you. And with that, I want to bring up Michael Blake to do the invocation. Michael Blake, the Assemblyman, former Assemblyman now, I guess, and Vice Chair of the Democratic Party, and a good friend, and just a wonderful human being who we still have many, many, many good things to see from. Michael, please join us up here.
Good morning. If you're like me, you needed prayer to figure out how to open the chicken and waffles this morning. Took me about 3 attempts. I had to move tables. I didn't know what was going on, but it's delicious right there. Allow me just a brief intro and a verse before the invocation. To our editor-in-chief, of course, Eleanor Tatum, and the entire Amsterdam News team, we say thank you for allowing us to be with you today. To all the preparers and servers of the meal, we say thank you to you. Of course, to our big brother, to President Gresham, and to 1199 family, Deb, and everyone that's here. We're grateful for you. As you all know, I'm an 1199 baby myself, so I'm always indebted. To all our union sisters and brothers who are here, we thank you for your service. To our Lieutenant Governor, Brian Benjamin, to the laborers in the vineyard, Belafonte, Camisaro, and Weingarten, we thank you for your leadership. And to all, we say good morning. Very briefly, for a labor breakfast, where we talk about tying communities together, there's a very short reflection for the prayer. The crowd stood on the other side, and they realized that Jesus had not departed, but that he departed alone. And when they went to go find him, Rabbi, when did you get here? He said, truly I say to you, seek me not because you saw signs, but because you ate some loaves and were filled. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that lasts for eternal life. What are we to do so that we may accomplish the work? This is the work of God, that you believe in him who he has sent. We can bow our heads and close our eyes. Whether you say the name God, Allah, or Jesus, we tie our communities together to say, provider of the ultimate nourishment, we bring our thanks to you. We're grateful for your presence. We arrive at this Amsterdam News Labor Breakfast realizing that we must continue to labor in the vineyard. Labor to fill the people. Fill the people with appreciation. Let us focus on not just how did we get here, but what will we do now that we're here. Fill the people with their minds seeing the signs of your presence, the sun that shines, the breath in our bodies, the food on our table, the homes that we reside in, the lives that we have. Fill the people with quality air for us. You told us, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. But as Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock reminded us, we are grateful for breath because we're battling the 2 pandemics of COVID-19 and COVID-16-19. Be filled with purpose, an everlasting purpose of tying communities together. In the spirit of Heschel and King, let us tie our communities together with our hands united for a purpose of unity. One where the seal of Amsterdam News and all the news of the Almighty shall tell of your greatness. One where we're reminded of the 2 words that we sometimes forget when we speak of what happened with the birth of Jesus. It didn't say that there was not room at all. It said there was no room for them. So when you eat this meal today, pray the prayers for them. Stand up for black media for them. Serve the people for them. Run and get elected to office for them. Return to your homes and be a laborer in the vineyard for them. Why? Because we need health care benefits for them, quality jobs for them, protection in our schools for them, hiring of people of color and women for them, collective bargaining for them, labor in the vineyard of justice, not for yourselves to be filled, but for our own good, for the people, for them. Why? Because it is not a breakfast that we have today alone on the table. It's the breakfast that we put on the table for the children who need us. It's the understanding of those that need us, whether it be here or down in Del Rio. Because if you are seeing someone crossing in a water, but yet they get whipped for having food on them, you realize we have to fight for them. If you have any confusion of the perspective of what I have today, realize that Jesus was a dark-skinned man of color. Jesus was a foreigner in a strange land. Jesus was a refugee. Jesus was a recipient of criminal injustice. Jesus believed in universal health care and in medicine. Jesus told the good news, so I believe he believed in the black press. And Jesus was a carpenter, so I know he was a union man. Be filled with the purpose for them. So in the name of the almighty ultimate editor-in-chief who tells the ultimate story on behalf of Amsterdam News and all the black press that they follow, in the name of the greatest organizer of all generations, in the name of the breath of essential workers who never stop laboring in the vineyard, bless Amsterdam News, bless all the laborers, bless all people of all unions, and bless everyone that wants to serve us who understands we are laboring for them. We say Ashe and we say Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Michael. So now I have the absolute great honor of introducing a good friend and the Lieutenant Governor of our state, who is our keynote speaker today, who was not our Lieutenant Governor just a few weeks ago. Who I don't even think knew that he was going to be our Lieutenant Governor a few weeks ago. But ascended to this position quite gracefully, and we are so proud that he represented our own community right before this, and did that so well. So former State Senator Brian Benjamin, now New York State Lieutenant Governor.
Oh my God. So much to say and not enough time to say. First, let me start, because this is an emotional moment for me. When I walked into this room, I saw Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin's table, and then right next to it I saw the Bill Lynch table, and I didn't know which table I should go to. I thought maybe we can merge the tables. And then my new Chief of Staff, Stacey Lynch, walked in, and I was wondering myself, what table was she going to go to? She went to the Bill Lynch table first, and then snuck up to the Brian Benjamin table. I love you, Stacey. But I say all that because, some people don't know, some people don't know that my start in government was because of the Honorable Bill Lynch. I was a young whippersnapper, like so many others, wanting to get involved, wanting to be an elected official, wanting to be in public service. And my mother used to work at Local 372 and used to work a lot with this young Bill Lynch Jr. over here. Not so young anymore. We'd be young in heart. And we became family friends. And Bill Lynch Sr. said to me, come to the office, sit down, and don't say a word. And he had me in his office, and some of you were on speakerphone, either you knew it or you didn't. And that's how I learned. And he did that for so many others. So I want to personally, if you don't mind, pay tribute to Bill Lynch because so many of us in this room are here because of what he did for this city. He helped Mayor Dinkins become Mayor Dinkins. He helped so many of us. He helped Harlem. People talk about sort of the history of Harlem. You can't do that without talking about Bill Lynch. So I just want to. One of the things that he used to say is, it is so important for us to tell our own story. And the Amsterdam News was central to his heart. And he made sure that everything he did, when it came time to tell our story, it needed to be us. And Eleanor, thank you for keeping the Amsterdam News going. It is important that we all support the Amsterdam News now and in the future. And then let me just say to the recipients of the honorees, who deserves it more? Kyle Bragg, 32 BJ. I won't tell you the story about how my dad was a 32 BJ member and worked at Stuyvesant High School my whole life. And it's because of 32 BJ and Local 237 and the UFT, AFT, and CSA and 1199 that there are so many families that have been able to break into the middle class. When you talk about the American dream, you can't do that without talking about labor. My parents, neither of them had college diploma. My dad didn't have a high school degree. But it was because of labor that they are now retired. They have a nice house in Queens. They have 3 kids who went to school. One who's a lieutenant governor. I'm just saying. That's because of labor. That is what labor does in this country. And so when Governor Kathy Hochul says, this is a labor state, and it will always be a labor state as long as we are in charge, we understand what that means. We know what that enables. It enables more families to be able to be a part of the arc of American history. And, you know, we've had some troubling days in American history. We all know that. But it is our job to right some of those wrongs and enable people to move forward. And it is with these labor leaders who we're honoring today, is how we're going to do it. So when we talk about tying communities together, I see my brother Greg Floyd here, who, give him a round of applause. He said to me, you're a young African-American man doing the right things. I want to support you. I don't know how much he knows how that for some of us to have our bigger brothers just say to us, we believe in you, we want to support you. You know, that's a big deal for a lot of us because, you know, I had, with my actual father, who I didn't grow up with, I was telling you about my stepfather, who I love to death. You know, we have issues in our community with some of us being abandoned by men and those kinds of things. And so it's important that when you think about sort of the arc and the generational arc of our movement and electeds and tying communities together with the labor movement and with the community, it's important that we get that support. We give that support to each other. Sometimes it's just nice to have someone say, I see you, keep doing what you're doing. Hey, I know that was a tough day, but you'll have better days. It's so important. And so I want to thank all of you in this room for supporting the Amsterdam News. I want to thank the Amsterdam News for recognizing how important labor is in our community and how important it is for us to work together, not for ourselves, but for the families out there who are working hard every day, just trying to keep a roof over their heads. Then here comes Hurricane Ida, and here comes this, and here comes that. Here comes COVID. It's our job as leaders to make sure that we're doing everything we can to have a fair and just society for everybody. And so, as your Lieutenant Governor, for however long that lasts, I will work my heart out to make sure that I do what I can to help tie communities together. And at the core of that is the labor movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. I gotta tell you, I think we're so lucky to have him. Darren, we're looking to you for great things. So now, I'm not sure if our technology is up and running for our video. Siobhan? Okay. So we are going to start with President of 32BJ, President Kyle Bragg, who is representing some of the essential workers who are in our schools. Those that are in there every single day, making sure that those classrooms are clean, making sure that after there is COVID found in our classrooms that they're gone through and cleaned up. Being in there when they're actually saying it's not safe for our kids to be there. For all the work that he has done for the people that he has represents, and will continue to represent, and for the years of dedication to the labor movement and to the Amsterdam News, I'd like to bring up Kyle Bragg. New York Amsterdam News, 7th Annual Tying Communities Together, presented to Kyle Bragg, President of 32BJ. Labor Breakfast, September 28th, 2028.
Thank you. Good morning, family. Prepared remarks wouldn't be too long, but I really didn't realize that when I arrived this morning, that I'd be arriving in the House of Labor, in the house that I grew up in. 1199's new home. It's my first time here. And, I see my big brother, George. God bless you, brother. Thank you. Like Senator Blake, I'm also 1199 baby. So I grew up in the labor movement. I grew up, and this is my home as well. So I understand the value, as my brother Ryan Benjamin had aptly put it, what labor can do for people of color, and has moved them into the middle class. And then, way off my remarks, I'll get there. But I didn't realize that I'd be in the room with another family of mine. I am also the benefactor of the wisdom and brilliance of the rough and genius, Bill Lynch, and so my Lynch family. Good to see you all again as well. And of course, my neighbor family. It's good to see each and every one of you. So thank you for having me this morning, and thank you for honoring our members at 32BJ who have laid out it all on the line during this pandemic. We represent 175,000 members across 11 states and Washington, D.C., 85,000 who live and work right here in New York City, who maintain, clean, provide security services in commercial, residential, academic, government buildings, in airports, and in other facilities across the East Coast. We're a majority black and brown union. Our members know the meaning of struggle and sacrifice, of hard work and of resilience. So I'm incredibly proud to accept this honor from the Amsterdam News on their behalf as part of the paper's annual celebration of labor. I'm thrilled to be here alongside my union family, President Randi Weingarten, Mark Cannizzaro, and the legendary activist and actor Harry Belafonte, who I'm sure, heard he can't be with us, but an incredible, incredible leader in this country. And I'm thrilled to be here. At the onset of this pandemic, our members, our security officers, our doormen, our porters, our cleaners, our airport workers were all designated as essential workers, as so many of your members have as well. And we have worked hard throughout this difficult period to keep them healthy and safe as they risk their lives and the lives of their families every day to keep New Yorkers safe and this city running. But here's the truth. Our members, now called essential workers, have always been essential to keeping our city moving. They may have taken a pandemic for folks to see the truth and believe it for themselves, but now it's undeniable. So what did our members actually do? They exposed themselves to a deadly virus to do hard and necessary work. More than 150 lost lives, 32BJ, in this pandemic. They did jobs that were not able to sit at their home at a computer, and their efforts did allow, though, the rest of the economy to go remote. They were and continue to be the backbone of our economic survival, and they are the linchpin of our continued recovery. So let's state the facts. Our nation's essential workers who put themselves and their families' health on the line during our darkest days need more than just an applause. We must show essential workers our gratitude for their sacrifice by securing family-sustaining wages, benefits, and workplace protections. Supporting the workers who risk it all for this country is a smart investment. But not only that, it's a moral imperative. That's part of the work ahead, to say thanks by delivering dignity and decent protections. And finally, on a more personal note, I want to thank Eleanor Tatum and the Tatum family for keeping this institution, the New York Amsterdam News, founded in 1909, 112 years in operation this December. This gem, alive, up and running, reporting truths that are vital to the Black and minority communities it serves. Providing information, reporting on the Black experience in Black communities in a positive way. Continue to highlight and lift up communities of color. I had a dear friend who passed recently, a friend of mine and a friend of, Bill McQuarrie. And I think about him when I think about the Amsterdam News. He was one of the first ones who introduced me to the newspaper at about 12 years old. And someone, too, who also reported on the Black experience and brought truth and brought positive images to the public about our experience in our community. So thank you again, Eleanor, and thank you to Amsterdam News. Congratulations on my co-honorees. Labor, we fight on to make lives better for all working people. God bless you.
Thank you so much, President Bragg. Our next honoree is Mark Cannizzaro, who represents the principals and administrators who have kept our schools running. As you heard me say earlier, how important those principals and administrators are. The Council of School Supervisors and Administrators, our schools can't run without those leaders. And representing those leaders is such an important job to make sure that they're able to make sure that our teachers are safe as well, and our students. And it's an honor to be able to honor you at our labor breakfast today. Thank you so much for doing what you do, and thank all of your members for us. And with this honor, that is our appreciation. Thank you so much. I will not read this again, but just that's your name.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
First, I'd like to thank the Amsterdam News for this wonderful recognition, and publisher Eleanor Tatum for not only organizing this event, but your comments this morning were heartfelt, and I think you recognize that tying the community together is necessary not only for our entire city and country, but in the small world of our school system as well. Because from what I can see here from our AFT president, our 32 BJ president, our local 237 school safety officers president, we're here as a team, and as a team we can make things and the school system better and things better for our children. And also thank you, Brother Gresham, for allowing us to use this beautiful space. Very much appreciated. Congratulations, Kyle, and Randy, and of course the great Harry Belafonte, who sadly couldn't be here today. I was looking forward to trying to meet him. And of course to William Lynch and the family of Bill Lynch, for who this award celebrates. Errol Lewis called Bill Lynch the best of the best. He described him as a savvy operator full of idealism and a truly humble public servant in a city full of egos, backstabbing, and bad intentions. I never had the honor of meeting Mr. Lynch, but as a labor leader who represents our city's school leaders, I'm surrounded by public servants like him, filled with that same idealism. And although I get to stand here today, this recognition is really for those who make up our union and the unions of all of you who are being honored today, and those of you perhaps not being honored today but doing God's work. It's an incredible privilege for me to represent more than 6,000 administrators and supervisors who serve our city's children, the principals, assistant principals, supervisors, and administrators, and our early childhood directors as well, who work in community-based organizations, the majority of whom are women, the majority of whom are black and brown women being paid approximately half the salary of their colleagues in the Department of Education. And we will continue to fight for them, for the equity that they deserve. And so since I've served as a principal and assistant principal myself, and a teacher myself, I know firsthand how incredibly hard our members and all of those in our school system work every day to keep communities safe and provide our students with a high-quality, well-rounded education. I remind them constantly that they not only change the lives of students, they are very often saving the lives of our students. And that was true long before March of 2020. So before this pandemic, I thought there was no way the job of educating children and young adults could become any more complicated, any more difficult, any more challenging. There would be no way for us to possibly do more for families, play a more crucial role in children's lives, and work any harder than we were already working. Yet somehow over the last 19 months, we have. So I thank you for recognizing them for their resilience, their devotion to children amid the greatest challenges our city has ever faced. And there will be more difficult times to come, and in the coming weeks and months, our school leaders will be there with our children and our adults in school buildings every step of the way. They will protect them, they will support them, and they will fight for them and the schools that they serve. The theme of this breakfast is aptly named, Tying Communities Together. Throughout our city's history, the labor movement in New York City has consistently demonstrated that we're stronger when we stand together and fight together. And having been unionized since 1935, the employees of the Amsterdam News know that as well. Having reported on the fight for equality throughout its history, your newspaper has documented the tremendous power of togetherness to effect change. And this theme has special relevance for our members because one of the essential ways we connect our communities is also through our schools. I've heard many people, from elected officials on down, ask me what's really happening in neighborhoods, and then saying to me, well, let's go to the principals and find out. And that's never been more true than during this pandemic. Crises have a way of showing that both individuals and communities what they are capable of achieving. This pandemic has been tragic for so many, and we will no doubt contend with the impact for years to come. But at the same time, crises can also provide a unique moment for the heroes of our communities to stand up and for all of us to renew our commitment to each other. Mayor Dinkins had this to say about Bill Lynch. He had a genius for connecting people of common interest and goals, tying communities together. We can only imagine how he'd still be connecting us all today in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of these trying times. Our union's members will continue to honor that legacy through public service. So thank you all again for recognizing the heroic work of school leaders, of teachers, of cleaners, of safety agents, of all the people that are doing God's work. And enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Hopefully it'll continue to be beautiful out there. I heard the forecast might not continue that way. Michael Blake, your invocation was moving and touching. Thank you. And Lieutenant Governor, congratulations, first of all. And secondly, just as moving. God bless you all. Thank you.
Bill Lynch is still connecting us. I think he always will be. He will always be with us, just like my father will always be with me and with all of us. And even the two Bills, Bill Lynch and Bill Tatum, they were really great buddies. And after my father died, I would go sit with Bill Lynch every week. And he and I cooked up this breakfast together. And that's how this breakfast started. That's why we wanted to name an award after him. Do we have video yet, or still not? Okay. So we're still going to wait. So next we are going to bring up the wonderful Randi Weingarten. She represents the teachers who educate our children, who also educate us for that matter. Every time we have one of those parent-teacher conferences and tell us what's actually going on and what we need to do to make sure our kids learn. We keep our kids safe in the classroom, who are there tirelessly, who had to figure out how to teach remotely with no heads up, with no real equipment, with no training, with no preparation whatsoever, and really did it by the seat of their pants and really did a good job. They figured it out because they had to. They were resilient, and I know they're really happy to be back in the classroom. And I know my daughter is very happy to be back in the classroom as well. For all that she has done and for all that her teachers do every day, we are so thankful for you and for them, and that is why we honor you and all of your union members. Thank you so much.
A mask version, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. You know, it is great to be home. It is great. It's, you know, when I walked in here, and George, congratulations, and this is a beautiful, just looking at the history, walking in, it reminds you of the majesty and the justice and the drum major aspects of 1199. And that is, I remember when we moved downtown, moved the UFT downtown, and thought about what to do in this space as people walked in. And in Bill Lynch's style, we made it about community. Because, you know, and any of us who grew up as Bill Lynch was basically connecting the city and trying to make the city a better place, understood that fight and community were both the same words. Fighting for community, fighting against chaos. The struggle, but the connecting is so, so important. So for me, Ellie, it is an honor to be here in your presence, in your father's presence of blessed memory, in Bill Lynch's presence of blessed memory, in Basil Patterson's presence of blessed memory. I saw Arthur Barnes last week at another memorial, and this is a moment also within the Jewish tradition. You all know I'm married to a rabbi, so I have to invoke that. That it is a moment of gratitude. It is a moment and Michael, in your invocation, you said this so much more beautifully than I could ever try. That it is a moment that we, and that what Ellie and the Amsterdam News are doing, they're being grateful to the essential workers who are represented in this room by these union leaders, all of whom, during the height of COVID, during the surges, the ups and downs, all of whom showed up for others. All of whom were there for others. And all the union leaders that are here, you know, you get to do this when you're a national leader now. All the union leaders who were here understood and got gazillions of phone calls or texts or whatever saying, what the? And they all were about representing our members and representing communities. The pathway to getting through COVID is having voice and agency and having safety in our communities, in our schools. With principals, and Mark, this is what I've seen around the country. And I think right now I've been to about 18 states, 35 places or so since the beginning of August, getting everybody back to school. What I've seen is that when the cleaners and the security guards and the principals and the educators and the nurses, when people are working together, they problem solve. They figure it out. And this honor today, and Ellie, you kind of conceiving about how to use this labor breakfast to thank the essential workers, to lift them up, to see who they are and what they do for this city, this nation. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that you, like your dad, are letting us tell a story about who these workers are and what they do for communities. And that's what Bill would have wanted us to read. Yes, we have lots of fights, both in this city and in this state and in this nation. Our multiracial democracy, which we have really only had, and Michael, when you talked about Heschel and King together, it made me throw out my speech and think about this. really only started in 1965. And there's been a huge pushback against it, which we see all across the country. You hear it in the urgency of my voice. What's happening in a place like New York and California because there is a labor movement, because of people like Bill Lynch who brought community together when community could split up, as we all know, is that there is a base that fights for that fights for labor rights, that fights for civil rights, that fights for immigrant rights, that is as upset about what's happening at El Rio here as we are at the border. Because of that community together. It's not blue states versus red states, it's because there's community. And what binds that community in so many ways is public education. Because what happens in public education is we bring people together, people who are diverse, people who may not like each other, kids who may never have read a book before they walked into pre-K. And we nurture, and we pull together, and we lift up, and we focus on their emotional, social, and academic selves. And we do it in community. And oftentimes we do it without the resources that we need. And that's what lifts up a country and brings a country together. And so to honor those who are working as journeymen in that regard is really important. And I really thank you. And the last thing I'll say is this, that we, Mark and Greg, Kyle, UFT, all of us, we have a real job to do. Because our obligation is not only to open schools, but to keep them open and keep them safe so we can create the recovery that we need for our kids, and I would argue the recovery for our country. Because if we can create an environment where parents want to send their kids to our schools, where educators want to work, where kids thrive, it will be the foundation that changes the country to be the blessed community that King talked about. Remember in his last book, Chaos versus Community, our schools and the people who work there, they are the drum majors that will reestablish the blessed community in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, President Weingarten. That was an amazing speech. I want to acknowledge some electeds and to the installed council people. Assemblywoman Chantal Jackson of the 79th District of the Bronx this year. And a future New York school child. And also Althea Stevens, a soon-to-be councilwoman in the 16th District of the Bronx. Welcome. And I believe no video.
I have a workaround.
Okay.
I come on up and
Okay.
describe the video.
We'll say what it is first.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Harry Belafonte, of course, is, up there in age, he's not able to be with us, but his daughter was accepting via Zoom for him. Unfortunately, we've got a little bit of a glitch, but Siobhan is going to explain how that glitch is going to be worked around.
That's right. So first of all, thank you to 1199 for this amazing space, and to President Grisham for joining us. Please, another round of applause for President Grisham. And we've all been there where the new thing that is fabulous has a few kinks as we're getting it to roll out, such as the technology here. So we were unable to project the wonderful video that Harry Belafonte's daughter Gina shot last night for us to project today. So we've just put it on the front of our website, theamsterdamnews.com. If you could all take a moment when you get back into your offices on your smartphone to please watch that beautiful acceptance speech on her behalf. And it is so very fitting because whose picture is right outside the door, Publisher Tatum?
Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte.
And Harry Belafonte was getting the Bill Lynch Award today. And as so many people have invoked his name today, Bill Lynch, whose son Bill is here. Billy, we're talking about you. Billy, we're talking about you.
It's working. It's working.
And whose daughter was the chief of staff for the lieutenant governor, who had to be on their way. But as we all know, Bill Lynch was a very special person to a lot of us in this room, and a lot of us would not be here if it were not for Bill Lynch. And Harry Belafonte means a lot to a lot of us here as well, and his legacy continues and is a great part of 1199 as well, and the Bread and Roses. And his work has been so important to the fabric of America, and that is why, and to the union movement, and that is why we honored him today. So with that, I just want to thank everyone so much for being here to help us tie communities together. And I want to thank again George Gresham and 1199. And it was so good to see you here, my brother. It has been way too long. And I want to thank Greg Floyd. So good to see you. And Deb Ritchie, and Randy, and Mark, and Kyle, and everyone else that I have not seen in forever because of COVID, and the staff of the Amsterdam News, who we could not do this without. Thank you. And I just want to bring to everyone's attention, on the Amsterdam News bags, it says, Amsterdam News, editorially black. And that is our new newsletter, editorially black. If you go onto our website, there's a button that says editorially black, subscribe. Please subscribe to our newsletter. We would love to have you looking at that every day. It comes right into your inbox if you subscribe. And we have a new website that's going to be launching in just a few weeks. So please continue to check back. If you get the newsletter, you'll get all the updates as to when that's going to launch. And we've got a lot of great things in store for us over the next few months.
Make sure they take all their bling.
Oh yeah, make sure to take your thermoses, your little canisters, your silverware, your bamboo silverware. That's all for you to take home with you, please.
And the newspapers by the door.
Yeah, and there are extra newspapers by the door. If you want to take some, please take as many as you want, and don't forget your bags. And if you need to reach any of us, please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to share any information about the vendors that we use for this stuff, because they're fantastic folks. And again, we just thank you all for being here with us and for sharing this breakfast. And, you know, it was a little bit smaller this year because of COVID, but next year we hope to be back in full force with, you know,